Hi, this is Matt from Skybow. In this video, I would like to show you the power of the Skybow document generator feature and give you some tips and tricks when using it. Today's agenda is quite quick. I have one slide where I'm showing some general possibilities of the document generator placeholders. So I'm not going to talk about the document generator in general. So it's a bit more specific today because I think most of you already know the feature, how it works. So it's really about a bit more detailed stuff, what's possible in document generator. And of course, like always, a demo. Good, let's jump into it. The document generator placeholders, there is a documentation about it. We will post that link below the video afterwards. And what you see here on the right side is the demo case I'm using for the demo today. It's a meeting having some agenda items, and each agenda item can have minutes, and it's on a specific date in a specific room, and there is a leader for it. And yeah, we can have really simple placeholders in here, for example, for the title or for the location, stuff like that. That's just this double bracket placeholders. What we also have in our other places where you can use expressions. Then we can also use complex placeholders, including JavaScript. So, for example, this date here on the top, I was using an assignment placeholder. I will show you afterwards. So you can actually use any kind of JavaScript in the document template itself. And the date here is done because if you use the standard save date of the document of the template, it will not work. It will always take the date from the document where it has been saved, because we are not saving the document again. So that's just one little issue. I will show you some more details. So we can have complex placeholders in here. We can have lookup values. So if you have a lookup field, then you can easily jump to all the field values from the target list directly in the template, with, like in other places, expression places, lookup dot and then the field name. We can have if conditions to show certain parts of the document. Here I'm using it for the minutes. So some of the agenda items, they have minutes, some they don't have. So I'm showing the minutes only if the minutes are not empty. But you can also, you can make an if condition around everything, around a table, around a placeholder, around an image, doesn't matter. Another thing is a loop and nested loops. So for all the meetings, I'm using a loop. So in the demo, I will generate a document for all meetings which are upcoming. And then I have a nest loop for all the agenda items. And something which is pretty new are these three options inside of a loop. So in a loop or in a nested loop, we have a property to access the parent properties. So let's say I'm in the agenda items and I want to access some values from the meeting. Previously, so some weeks ago, that's pretty new, that was just released, we were not able in the inner loop to access values from other loops outside. And now we can do that. So for example, the location is coming from the meeting itself, but I wanted to list it, and also the leader, it's the same. I wanted to list it on every single agenda item. Then we have two more. One is the index. The index is is sometimes necessary if you want to see. In my scenario, I need to know if it's the first item of the loop or not. So that's my main usage for the index. So if index is 0, then it's the first item. If it's greater than 0, then it's not the first item. And I'll show you how I'm going to use that in my template here later on. Then that's very specific to if you generate the document right from an edit form, for example, or a new form, but most probably from an edit form. You have a save button and you save. You could generate a document and then show some parts maybe in red if the field has changed. So this field property is changed, which is also available in the expression builder. You can use that as well in the document template. And let's say if the time has changed, then you can show the time probably in red, or you can also access the original value, which is the value before the change. That might be helpful in a template if you want to show something or if you generate a document on the edit form, you edit the item, you save it, and then you want to generate a document which probably shows the changed things, which will not be the case in my demo today. Last but not least, that's also one of the additions that we've done the last couple of updates, is to use variables and action outputs. So normally you have an action builder, skybow action builder to generate the document. And if you define variables in the action builder, or if you have previous actions, now with the latest update, you can access those variables right within the document template and also previous action outputs, as you can use in the following actions as well. That's pretty powerful. Yeah, those are the specific possibilities. And now let's jump into the demo for this. So I have prepared this scenario here. As you can see, I have a list of meetings. One is in the past, 3 of them are in the future. So we can also see that here, upcoming meetings. Those are the 3 meetings. They have a start date. It's a date time field. They have a number, a location, and 2 people picker fields. One is a single one, and the other one is a multi-people picker field. The location itself is another list called meeting locations. And for the demo purpose, I created the location plus an additional column for the floor. So to show you how we can access the floor right within the template. And last but not least, I also have a library specifically for the templates. It's also maybe best practice that you don't upload them directly. Normally I create a library, just a simple document library, SharePoint document library, and I upload the template here. That's much easier to maintain those templates. You can easily click on the template and it will open up in Word if it's configured like that. But first of all, let me show you how this will turn out. I've used a list action, skybow list action, here on the top to generate that document, and it's just generating a file or a page for each meeting which is in the future. So if I press here, it generates a document. For the demo, I use the download, and I will show you how this will look like. I can show you in the print mode. So I have 3 meetings, and it loops through the meetings. You have 3 pages, and as you can see here I have minutes. This is not having minutes. Last one is also having minutes. Here, that's the location, and that's the floor. So I'm accessing that value via the lookup from the outer loop. So that's how the final document will look like. I'm having some background images in the header. That's why it looks a bit fade here in the, or light in the normal view. So this is the image. And if we now look at the template, go back to the library. I have it open here. So a couple of things that I have here. First of all, in the header, that's the thing I was talking about, complex placeholders. That's not really complex, but you can make it complex or more complex. And this is a simple JavaScript, new date. And then I'm formatting it with format D. That's the standard format for a short date. So that's simply JavaScript. You can make a placeholder. If you start with an equal sign inside those double brackets, it's like an assignment placeholder from skybow. So you can type in any JavaScript in here, and it will return that JavaScript for you, or the return value. The second part down here is I added a variable. I will show you in the editor right afterwards. And the variable is exactly the same as in the action builder. Simply add variables and then the variable name. Here I'm adding the person's name who is generating the document, just as an example. So that's the one up here. And then what I did, and that's a scenario that I had quite often, is that you want to have, if you have a loop, you want to have a page break. So each new item should start on a new page. So how can we do that? And that's how I do it. I'm simply, I have this loop, that's the outer loop for each meeting. And then that goes until up here. So that's my outer loop. And I have another loop inside for the agenda. So that goes from here to here. Whoops, sorry. And then first thing here, let's see if we can show that a bit better here. I have a page break. I've added a page break and on the very first page. And here is where I'm using this current index, because I'm saying if it's the first time, the first item, then do not render. That's this if statement. And the if goes on up to here. So if it's the first page, do not render the page break. For all the following pages, I want to have a page break. First time, no page break, and for all the following pages, I have a page break. That's how I do it, which is quite easy. So I don't have, like, I could add it at the very end, but then I'm always having an empty page at the end. That's not what I want to have, especially if I want to make it directly a PDF out of it and print it. So that's the way how you can now do it with this add loop. And that's always the current loop you're in, and then dot current index, which is also documented in the documentation. So if it's bigger than 0, that's how you can do it. One more thing, I mean, this one is the easiest, just a simple placeholder. Something which is a bit specific to, I would say, other regions, or to date fields, currency fields, etc. Especially in Switzerland, in Germany, etc. I configured my PC to be in English, for example, but I want to have a date in Swiss. So I can use JavaScript in here again with this complex placeholder. I'm taking the date field, and then I can use the JavaScript functionality to local string. You can Google that, so it's not it's easy to find. You give it the local DECH for Switzerland, DEDE or whatever, and then you can specify how the state should look like. So I'm only taking the year, the month, the day, the weekday. And for the time, it's similar. Let's go outside here. So it's a date time field, and here I'm just taking the time part of it. Let me see if I can make it better to read. So I'm just saying to local time string, which gives me the time and format of Switzerland. So we have 24 hours format here, and that's it. So from the same field, here I'm showing the date, and here I'm showing the time. And then in the agenda items down here, I have a loop for all the agenda items. The list is called agenda. And then I'm also providing a view. Why do I need this view? It's the standard all items view, but if I go back to my list, we go to the agenda, this view is ordered by time because I want to have the agenda really based on the time. And the problem is if I wouldn't specify this view, it would, so if I don't specify view here, it will loop all through all the agenda items, but based on the ID, so the SharePoint internal ID, which is just how you've added them. So if you've added an agenda item for 7 a.m. in the morning, later on, it will be at the very end. And by providing a view, it takes also the ordering of this specific view. And therefore, I have the right ordering. So, and in there, I'm showing the start time. I have the title of the topic itself, and here again I have this placeholder. If minutes is not null, then show the minutes, and if. As you can see, that's just best practice that I do. Because if you have a lot of placeholders, I started to make them, at least the ones which are just for the logic, I started to make gray, and the ifs I made green, the end if is orange, a loop I make purple, etc. It's just easier to read if you have a bigger template. Yeah, just my best practice. So I can see, okay, that's not something which is rendered. It's only the black stuff. The black one is really rendered in the final document. And I can easily see, okay, opening, closing. If I have more ifs, I always see, okay, I have one open and one close, and so on. Then here on the right, the leader is set on the meeting itself. Here it's where I access this parent property. I have the loop again, so I'm in this loop here, and I access the parent. So I jump up to the meeting, and then I have the leadership, which is a field. That's the simple one. And in the location, I did something similar. I have the parent location, and then separated with a space, I access the floor. And here I'm showing you that you can even access lookup values. So the location is a lookup, and I'm accessing lookup values via the parent element. So that's also possible. I could also do that inside here, but that's more advanced, I would say. So you have a loop up here, location is a lookup, and I'm jumping to the floor. So I'm showing the floor here. So that's basically to show you all the possibilities in a simple scenario. And now, maybe last but not least, let me show you PDF. Good question. I can go back to my Solution Studio. That's my list. And like I said, I'm using a list action. So I go on the meeting list, on the view, the default view, I have these list actions up here, and that's my button. If we look at how this button is configured, it's just for the current list, so it's always visible. So not only if I select one or more items, and then I have a couple of actions in here. First, I'm showing, okay, it's being generated. That's also a best practice that I do. I'm always showing a message that it starts to generate, because otherwise you only have this little bar which shows the progress. And I also show a message at the very end, a success message once generated. So, and in between we have the document generation. So what I did, as you probably know, there are different ways how to use a template. You can directly upload it, but then this template is like hidden in a hidden library. It's hard to find to change it. You can directly change it from here, pressing on the link. But like I showed you before, I created a document library. That's the one here. And I was using this approach. Select existing template. Here I have the library, and then I select the template. So that's then easy to maintain afterwards. You can simply go there and change it. Or of course, a dynamic path, that would be the other, the other approach. So if you want to have it fully dynamic somewhere configured. My action is configured for multiple items, so for multiple meetings in my case. And that's the library. And I was giving a query. The query is saying, okay, just take meetings which have the start date in the future, greater or equal to date. I can run it as well in here, and we see those 3 meetings. And for each meeting, it would generate 1 page. But this loop, this outer loop, that's it here. And I will open it in the browser, give it a name, again, some simple JavaScript. And yeah, the question before, we have developed a way how to generate a PDF out of it directly. It's this little flag. So simply say yes here. And then next time reloading, it generates a PDF directly. Can also be directly saved to a library. To get this functionality, please contact us so we can. It's not just there for everyone. We can how to say, we can release it for you if needed. So yeah, here now we have the PDF. Exactly, same one. I hope I was able to show you some nice tips and tricks when using the skybow document generator.